The B-47 bomber, which made its bow in 1947, introduced this new age in the skies. But looking backward beyond this date, what did it take to produce this change? It took vast manufacturing capabilities, like the Boeing plant in Wichita, Kansas, the Boeing Plant 1 in Seattle, the Renton, Washington plant, and Seattle's Plant 2. It took the willingness to investigate everywhere, studying captured documents after VE Day, documents describing radical engineering experiments conducted in Nazi Germany. Finally, sweeping back the wings in the search for a design that would stand up under a jet airplane's extremely high speeds. Putting the theory to the test in the wind tunnel, confirming parts of the theory, discovering that the solution to one problem introduced new ones. The wing should be swept back, yes, but how far? Designing and redesigning. Beyond design, probing into the chemical world's mysteries for new materials, developing methods for handling, treating, processing, and fabricating metals capable of standing up under the rugged conditions a jet airplane must experience. Adding all the investigations into one answer, and back to the wind tunnel for confirmation, by duplicating actual flight conditions and putting the model through its paces. Devising the production methods to get the job done effectively and on time. The old established methods wouldn't do with this larger, more complex airplane. Then securing the jet engines, the proper engines for the big job of flying into the unknown. The B-47, which emerged, is the fastest known medium bomber in the world, the first multi-engine aircraft to exceed 600 miles an hour. The B-47 has won the praise of its pilots, with a majority opinion reading, "She flies and handles more like a fighter than a bomber." Once the 47 proved itself, quantity production was ordered. More than 1,300 have rolled off the assembly line at Boeing's Wichita plant. The Stratojet represents striking force and is constantly on call with the Strategic Air Command in simulated missions.
You have second station. Roger. I have it.
Time to go, 180 seconds. This is the payoff. 3 men, a machine, the skills of thousands of people funnel into these few critical seconds over the target.
You have 30 seconds before bomb release. Seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The B-47 daily demonstrates the mobility, the strength of modern jet airplanes, providing a round-trip ticket to potential targets anywhere in the world.
Our story begins on the flat prairies of Kansas, the geographical center of the United States. Here, near Wichita, is McConnell Air Force Base. McConnell is known as one of the toughest schools in the Air Training Command. The students of this school are experts, veteran airmen with thousands of hours flying time. Pilots and observers are assigned here for a special purpose. They will learn to fly the Stratojet bomber. In some small measure, this is their story.
Gentlemen, on behalf of the 3520th Combat Crew Training Wing, we welcome you to McConnell Air Force Base. Now, you're here for an intensive training period to qualify you as crew members in the B-47 airplane. Now, to acquaint you with some of the history of the Stratojet, we take you back to 1943, to the dark days of World War II. The B-17, the Flying Fortress, was our mainstay. The Superfort, the B-29, was just starting into production. At the request of the Air Force, Boeing Airplane Company engineers in Seattle began studies on the next generation of big bombers. Bombers with something added, the radically new jet engine. These engineering studies, thousands of research hours, exhaustive wind tunnel and power plant tests, led to a six-jet swept-wing airplane. On December 17th, 1947, exactly 44 years from the day the Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk, the first experimental airplane, the XB-47, took to the sky. That flight sparked a revolution. Jet air power was here to stay. Here was a bomber, a big bomber, that flew and handled like a fighter. As for speed, more than 600 miles per hour. By early spring of 1948, the Air Force had decided that it wanted these 47s, lots of them, and in a hurry. This decision led to the reopening of the government B-29 plant here in Wichita, virtually idle since VJ Day. There was a challenge of coordination when hundreds of subcontracting companies from all over the United States joined the Boeing team and began to feed a staggering total of more than 78,000 different items into the B-47 production effort. Then came the challenge of manufacturing problems. To meet the performance formula of higher, farther, faster took the skills of many. It called for closer manufacturing tolerances than even the aircraft industry was accustomed to handling. It was a bomber that had to function perfectly at more than 7 miles above the Earth's surface. All its components had to operate perfectly in temperature extremes from 120 degrees above zero to 65 degrees below. 2 years later, in March of 1950, the dream came to life. The standard production models began to roll off the line. Know-how had solved the problems. Effort and teamwork had overcome the obstacles. 4 years later, 1,000 Stratojets had been built. In 4 short, busy years, we had 1,000 of these excellent reasons for national security. As distance and endurance records for jet aircraft were tumbled by the 47, a continuous program of development kept the Stratojet series out in front. From the current model was developed a speedy photo reconnaissance job designated as the RB-47 and classed as the world's fastest long-range photo plane. We have touched briefly on speed. Speed takes horsepower. The jet engines designed and built by General Electric are rated in pounds of thrust. The 6 jets on this airplane deliver a total of 36,000 pounds of thrust. That, in simple translation, means power. When you put your hand to the throttles of the 47, you have the equivalent of 375 automobiles of 200 horsepower each, right at your fingertips. Still, under some conditions of extreme weight, or when using very short runways, additional power is needed. The answer comes in one neat package, bottle thrust, 1,000 pounds worth. 33 of these bottles, installed externally in a droppable rack, provide an additional 33,000 pounds of thrust for those critical takeoff conditions and literally boost the Stratojet into the air. For takeoff, this means that the fully loaded airplane, weighing over 100 tons, and that's a lot of weight, will be airborne and flying in a matter of seconds. To meet the exacting requirements of the Air Force, the flight test program was exhaustive. It is certainly not by chance that this airplane has proven to be the world's fastest and safest operational medium bomber. So, gentlemen, that's the airplane. Now, you'll learn that she flies by teamwork. A combat crew of 3. Aircraft commander, pilot, and observer. Now, you pilots may just as well regard the observer as the blue chip passenger. When you're coming in over the target, it's his baby. When your observer calls for a second station, all this vast program, all this effort, is no better than the observer's skill in those few seconds over the target. Now, your instructors here at McConnell are prepared to qualify you as B-47 combat crew teams. Now, it's up to you.
Yes, it was up to us, all right. And they weren't wasting any time. On our team, a pilot named Sam, a young old-timer with thousands of hours aloft. And there was Tom, our observer, with a built-in calculator for a brain. That's desirable equipment for an observer. And there I was, Cliff, aircraft commander. Our instructor, we were convinced, must have been born in a 47. Because of his background as a Stratojet pilot, he could appreciate the problems we were about to encounter. Many of our questions were never voiced. We were already zeroed in on the practical answer. At first, it seemed we were involved in an endless mass of systems and procedures. It didn't seem possible that we could fly this baby with only a crew of 3. It wasn't long before we were beginning to sense the need for close teamwork. Lecture followed lecture, and days became weeks. This was no ordinary airplane. The captain, with charts and mock-ups, really put it across. And a lot of details began to add up. Of course, there were some trifles. 27 miles of electrical wiring, over 1,000 electronic tubes, hydraulics, compressors, accumulators, valves, and gauges without end. The observer's trainer was a duplicate of the bombing devices and the radar equipment which is actually located in the nose of the B-47. Radar, the all-seeing eye, penetrates the blackest night or the thickest clouds. The key to the bombing mechanism is in this small handle. On the final bomb run, it is the observer who flies the airplane. When the observer is ready to take over, he calls for second station. Then his skill and judgment imparted to this handle controls the airplane through the K system, which computes distance, time, speed, windage, drift, and all the other variables. The K system can pinpoint its target, although it may be invisible and 7 miles below. Pinpoint means not an entire city or even a building in that city, but a particular corner of that building. When the pilot hears the observer say, "Give me second station," that's it. Of course, we became thoroughly acquainted with the airplane. Hour after hour, flying with our pilot instructor took out the kinks. The time we'd spent in mock-ups and simulator missions made theory and practice dovetail. Everything smoothed down. We'd sort of forgotten there was to be a day of reckoning. All pilots remember their first solo as something special. There's always a thrill of anticipation on any solo flight. I guess it's the challenge, the realization that the chips are down. It's final. You're on your own. Our instructor was there, prepared to sweat it out with his boys. Remember, he says, Lightfoot Control Radio will keep you in contact. Have a nice ride. And he heads for the airstrip to watch our first solo effort. Not long after, McConnell had made us masters of the 47, and our tour of duty at the school came to an end. We moved on to a squadron of the Strategic Air Command, a top duty assignment worldwide. We deployed 47s to and from overseas bases in Europe, Africa, and the Far East. Sometimes singly, sometimes in strength. Our training never stopped. It intensified. We were constantly on the alert. Strategic Air Command is vitally concerned with perfection in tactical missions. To achieve and maintain the fine edge of perfection, we fly simulated bombing missions against our own cities. Cities which bear a marked resemblance to other targets. A bombing mission begins in the briefing room, where all the details of your assignment are set before you. To be specific in our case, we were to meet a tanker airplane and refuel in the air at exactly midnight that night, and we were to be over our target at precisely 6 o'clock the next morning. Every time you go on a mission, in fact, every time you fly, you leave some solid citizens behind. They are the ground crew. The ground crew shoulders lots of responsibility for millions of dollars in equipment. But more to the point is their concern with human lives. Their skill and knowledge ride with us. In a jet, things happen fast. It's pretty important to know that everything's right. These are the boys that see to it. Without the ground crew, believe me, there would be no team.
Control Tower, this is Air Force 1956.
Ready for takeoff, over.
Air Force 1956.
Cleared for takeoff.
Roger, coming up on power. Gear up.
Gear coming up.
AC, this is the observer.
Your first heading is 120.
Roger, observer.
Turning to 120.
Observer from the AC. But we're getting into some rough-looking weather.
How does it look on radar?
AC, this is the observer. We have a good picture. No thunderheads in sight.
Observer from AC. And we're breaking through on Tom. And Tom, SCS is not on board.
Roger, Cliff.
Cliff, take up a heading of
165.
Turning to 165.
Hour after hour, boring through the thin air of the stratosphere, on into the night, to a pinpoint rendezvous with the refueling airplane.
Tom, our scheduled refueling time is 2400. It's about 6 minutes to go.
Where's that tanker airplane?
hold your present heading. I have the tanker on radar.
You should have him in sight now.
Roger. I have the tanker in sight. Nice going, Tom. We're going in right on the button. Sam, get set for refueling contact.
Roger, Cliff. Refueling checklist complete. Slipway door open.
Get your credit card ready. She's all yours.
Okay, Sam. Watch our fuel distribution. I'm ready to contact.
For security reasons, aerial refueling contact in Strategic Air Command is accomplished in complete radio silence between tanker and bomber.
Contact made.
This delicate maneuver, calling for the utmost piloting skill, has become so routine with our Air Force that every 3½ minutes around the clock, an aerial refueling is being accomplished somewhere in the world.
Got our load. Okay, pressure disconnect.
Refueled and ready to fly through the long night to the target. A sleeping city, 7 miles below. At dawn, exactly 6 o'clock, bombs away.
Cliff, we're almost at the initial point.
Roger.
Start your IP turn in 20 seconds to a heading of 045.
Roger, 20 seconds, turning to
045. Steady on 045. We're on autopilot.
Roger. I have the target on radar. Center the PDI and give me second station.
The PDI is centered. You have second station.
Roger. I have it.
Time to go, 180 seconds. This is the payoff. 3 men, a machine, the skills of thousands of people funnel into these few critical seconds over the target.
You have 30 seconds before bomb release.
$20 seconds.
10.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Vapor trails in the sky. A signature of the dedicated men of Strategic Air Command, perfecting the means whereby we here below may go our appointed ways, unmolested. The signature of those who perhaps are shaping destiny with their strange command, give me second station.